Imagine a single dry pause from a judge weighing more than a surname that spooked a city for years. Providence Municipal Court smells of waxed oak and old coats. The air from the vent hums a steady line. The benches hold veterans with folded caps, grandparents with ticket slips, two school volunteers in neon vests. Alex Mercer, 26, son of former Judge Leon Mercer, benched 3 years ago for ethics violations, steps to the mic. Designer sneakers, dark hoodie, phone welded to his palm. A cream envelope, from father, rests on the table like a promise he intends to cash. The clerk reads the docket. Rolling stop in a school zone. Monday, October 13th, 2025, 7:52 a.m. Intersection by Carl G. Lauro Elementary. Hazard lights in a fire lane at 8:01. Notation: patronizing tone, implied connections. Each line isn't just an infraction, it's a sketch of a habit. Judge Caprio flips a page, face blank as a paperweight. Mr. Mercer, what happened at 7:52? Alex smiles with one corner of his mouth and sets the envelope down so the crest points outward. I was going slow. Besides, courts and I go way back. A metal clip on the envelope taps the wood. Light ring, like a spoon on china. Somewhere, a pen clicks. The judge lets the silence lengthen until it has edges. The officer steps forward, voice steady. At the crosswalk, a volunteer raised the stop paddle. A fifth grader stood at the curb. Mr. Mercer's sedan rolled past the line and halted on the zebra. We had to wave the child back. A ripple passes through the room, older lungs exhaling as one. The school volunteer in the vest, Mrs. Reyes, 62, lifts a hand. I was there, she says, not theatrical, only precise. The boy had an inhaler. We retreated because the bumper took our lane. Caprio doesn't look at the envelope. He looks at Alex. And at 8:01? Emergency lights, 1 minute, Alex says lightly. I was delivering materials. Everyone knows me there. The body cam audio plays, a sharp beep, then Alex's voice, calm, self-assured. Write it down, Mercer. If there's an issue, call my father. The words land and just sit there, heavier for how short they are. The judge slides the cream envelope to the side with 2 fingers. The clerk's eyes narrow. Even from the bench, you can see the pixel fringe on the signature image, a hair off from ink. Caprio keeps his tone even. We'll get to that. He turns to the officer again. The volunteer raised the sign? Yes, Your Honor. And a student was in the crosswalk? Yes. Caprio's pen rests against the pad, unmoving. The phone in Alex's hand starts tapping against his thigh. Soft, nervous percussion under the oak's drone. The law is clearest where people are the most fragile, the judge says. School zones are not where we audition our impatience. Alex shrugs without looking up. I was bringing a letter for the principal. Safety program stuff. A cough, the kind that isn't illness so much as commentary, sounds from the back row. The clerk notes a timestamp. The volunteer's vest crackles as she folds her arms. The envelope's clip gives another bright, traitorous ping. Caprio's pause returns, larger now, the way a harbor goes still before a storm. He glances at the crest on the envelope and then away from it, like refusing bait. Mr. Mercer, he says finally, this court will not be briefed by stationery. Alex leans on the lectern, bravado thinning. The room hears small things, the click of the judge's pen after a long hold, the uneven patter of Alex's sneaker against the floor, the low air handler stitching the seconds together. Caprio sets the envelope aside for good and centers the file. Tell me about that morning. Not your family's service, not your father's titles. You. The temperature seems to drop 0.5 degrees. Alex's thumb rubs the edge of his phone as if he could sand the truth down. His eyes touch the audience, faces that have weathered headlines longer than he's been alive, and flinch back. "Start with yourself," the judge says, quiet as a door closing. "Leave the surname outside." Alex squares his shoulders, but his thumb keeps worrying the phone's edge, a nervous file on glass. "I'm in an MBA program," he says. "I help at our family's legal education fund. My father made mistakes. The system isn't perfect either. That morning I was bringing materials for a school safety initiative. I was rushing. I didn't see anyone." A collective breath moves through the benches. Older lungs, old patience. Caprio's reply is surgical, not hostile. "Addresses, times. Who confirmed your arrival?" Alex unlocks his screen, flips to a calendar block highlighted in blue. "Meeting, 8 o'clock, Carl G. Loro Elementary." The clerk has a city map already open. "From the rolling stop location to the front entrance is 10 to 12 minutes in school-hour traffic," she says. "Yet at 8:01 your vehicle is recorded in the fire lane. That interval doesn't reconcile." He nods quickly, as if agreement could glue the gap shut. "I was dropping safety cones for the volunteers, trying to help them set up faster." A printer's whisper answers him. The clerk slides a page forward. "Purchase receipt shows yesterday, 3:54 p.m. Delivery scheduled for Tuesday, not Monday." Paper edges hiss against varnish. Somewhere in the gallery, a soft tisk. Alex's mouth tightens. "I meant I was, generally, helping. We do a lot for the schools." Caprio doesn't blink. "Your hours?" "Plenty," Alex says. "As needed." The judge lifts a second sheet. "City Volunteer Registry, 2025. 0 hours attributed to your name or the fund email." Silence folds over the room like a blanket laid square. Alex looks at the floor, then at the ceiling, anywhere but the line of sight in front of him. "After my father's case," he says, quieter. He kept his head down. Public apologies. At home, no more room for embarrassment. He told me to protect the name. We support programs. We make calls. We keep things moving. "Moving," Caprio repeats, neutral, even where stopping is required. Alex meets his gaze for the first time without the old tilt. "I thought serving the city meant using the access we had. If a door opens when you knock, you start to think knocking is the service." "In my courtroom," the judge says, "service begins with stopping where the sign says stop." From the benches come those small, telling sounds of people who've lived long with rules that didn't bend for them. A cane tapping twice, a coat sleeve brushed smooth. The school volunteer in the vest watches without gloating. Caprio's tone narrows, precise. "Repeat for the record. Which entrance? Who expected you at exactly 8? Who cleared the lane?" Alex flips his phone again, stalling. The screen reflects his face back at him, too bright. He has nothing credible to point to. The clerk gathers the papers, squares the stack, and sets a final document on top, an email header. "One more note," she says. "The principal's office rescheduled your funds meeting to 10:30 yesterday at 4:19 p.m. Your account shows it seen at 4:23. A soft murmur, no more than air shifting. Alex swallows. "I was still planning to drop the materials." "Planning isn't permission," Caprio says. "No heat, just a measuring stick." For a moment, the only sounds are the vent's even breath and the faint rasp of the receipt as the clerk returns it to the file. Alex's posture drains of performance. What's left is a young man with a habit he's finally seeing from the outside. "Now," the judge says, turning to the monitor cart, "let's examine what your words can't capture." The lights fall a shade. Cold illumination spills onto a screen. A timeline banded from 7:45 to 8:10, seconds marked like stitches. The room leans forward as if gravity has shifted, and the film begins. The screen wakes with a soft whir, and time becomes the witness. No speeches, just numbers and frames. 7:52:04, school camera. A red octagon lifts in a volunteer's glove. 7:52:07, a fifth grader toes the curb, inhaler clutched like a talisman. 7:52:09, a black sedan noses past the stop line and comes to rest on the paint, bumper shadow swallowing the first stripe of the crosswalk. A mouse clicks forward, each tick a metronome. The gallery leans in. You can hear the projector's fan and nothing else. Bodycam, 8:01. The image jitters as an officer walks. Hazard lights pulse against brick. Alex's car straddles the fire lane by the school nurse's entrance. On the dash, a glossy donor sticker throws back the morning. Alex's voice, even, practiced. 1 minute. They know me here. Caprio lifts a brow at the tech. Another feed drops in. CarPlay transcription from the same morning. The audio is tinny but clear. Running late, rolling by the school, then fire lane drop. The word rolling hits the quiet, like a nail set with a firm tap. The clerk brings up an email header. Yesterday, 4:19 p.m., the principal's office. Meeting moved to 10:30. Status on Alex's account, scene 423. No commentary from the bench. The facts do their own talking. A new document appears. The father's letter from the cream envelope. Zoom in. Under Properties. Created today at 7:11 a.m. Author, A. Mercer. Signature layer, embedded image. The judge doesn't raise his voice. Was this signed by your father? Alex's jaw works. I drafted it. He would have agreed. Would have, repeats Caprio, as if tasting the conditional. From the third row, the school volunteer stands, vest catching the projector's light. I'm Mrs. Reyes, she says, 62, precise consonants, no tremor. I held the stop up. The boy had had an asthma flare. When the sedan came over the line, I pulled him back. We weren't dramatic. We were being careful. The timeline jumps again. 8:06. A cafe camera across the street. The sedan sits in the second lane now, hazard lights off. A barista wipes a window in the background. So the minute ran long, and the warning blinkers got bored. The clerk reads from a safety log at 8:03. Nurse diverted around vehicle. Delay 2 minutes, 40 seconds for student inhaler. It lands heavier than any fine total. In the benches, a soft, collective exhale. The kind of sound made by people who've waited in emergency rooms and measured time differently now. No scolding from the bench. Caprio just taps the edge of the file once, like setting a picture level. Impatience has a footprint, he says. We can see it from 3 angles. Alex's phone is face down now. His foot has stopped keeping time. For the first time he looks not cornered, but unmasked. There is nowhere to place the weight, but on himself. A final click. Metadata for the PDF fills the screen again, square and undeniable. The word author blinks like a small siren. The judge lets the room sit with it. Then, quietly, imitation is not endorsement. Someone near the aisle mutters a quiet, not triumph, just recognition. Caprio closes the laptop halfway, dimming the glow. We will move to what the paperwork can't fix, he says, but the record is clear. A hinge creaks at the back. The courtroom doors ease open. An older man steps through. Silver hair, plain jacket, no entourage, no pins. He doesn't take the seat beside his son. He stands by himself, hands folded, and addresses the bench without raising his voice. Your Honor, if the court permits, I have a brief statement for the record. All the attention that had been on the screens shifts to him as if on a single rail. The transition isn't announced. It arrives like weather. The timeline freezes at 8:06. The sedan paused mid-frame, while the weight of what comes next gathers in the new stillness. The rear doors hush closed behind him. Leon Mercer, 68, silver hair clipped short, plain jacket, no lapel pins, doesn't look at his son. He stops a pace from the aisle mic and lowers it with 2 fingers, careful as if it might bruise. Your Honor, with the court's permission, a short statement for the record. Caprio inclines his head. Go ahead. Leon places a folder on the clerk's table. The paper inside has the faint blue sheen of a notary stamp. Filed at 7:15 a.m. today, he says. Please consider my son's case without reference to me. The letter in that envelope, he nods toward the cream stationery, is not mine. I did not sign it. Any use of my name for advantage is unauthorized. The clerk checks the seal, reads the registry number under her breath, and nods. A dry whisper of paper, then the soft, single thud of the notary embosser touching wood. Leon turns back to the bench. 3 years ago, I lost my robe for ethical failures. That is not a rumor. It is my history. Twice a week, without press, I volunteer at crosswalks. This morning, I was a block from the school. I saw a black sedan drift past the line when a volunteer raised stop. I watched a child step back. A breath leaves the room all at once, not dramatic, simply older lungs deciding together. Alex takes half a step forward. Dad, I was there for safety. For the kids. Leon's answer is level. Safety begins with stopping in front of a person, not with a cone in the trunk. He sets down one more sheet. To the foundation, return any donation made after the incident. We will not purchase reprieves. No flourish, no glance to see who approves. He folds his hands. For a moment you can hear the air register hum, the mild click of someone's ring against a bench, the living room sounds of a public place. Caprio studies him. Mr. Mercer, thank you. The court accepts your statement. Leon nods and steps back, not to his son's side, but to an empty stretch of wall. Alex's eyes follow him there, then drop. The bravado that carried him to the microphone no longer knows where to stand. Mrs. Reyes lifts her vest hem, smoothing the reflective tape as if readying herself for weather. She doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. Caprio addresses Alex without changing volume. Your surname will neither shield nor sharpen the penalty here, he says. We're busy with facts. Alex swallows. The word withers in the dry air. Leon does not prompt, defend, or correct. He is a witness now, to his son, and to his own repairs. When he'd said, I lost my robe, the sentence fell cleanly, a plank set across a muddy place. The clerk slides the notary page into the file. The embossed seal rasps faintly against the folder as it goes. Somewhere near the aisle, a paper cup touches the floor. Hollow tap. And then stillness again. Caprio looks from father to son. The court appreciates candor, he says. It does not alter the timeline. Alex nods, small and honest, as if something inside him has finally put its hands down. Leon lifts his chin toward Mrs. Reyes, a gesture of respect rather than apology. She answers with a thin, practical smile, the kind exchanged by people who meet at corners with traffic, not on stages with microphones. Caprio turns to the monitor cart. We return to the minutes and the documents, he says, voice even. Counselor, bring up the sequence. The lights drop a degree. The projector wakes with its soft, electric breath. On the screen, the band of time waits, 7:45 to 8:10, each second a stitch. The cursor hovers over 7:52:04. Let's finish the record, the judge says. The room leans forward as the timeline brightens, and the next frame begins to move. The projector throws a clean rectangle on the wall. The room settles as if someone has set a level on it. Caprio doesn't lecture. He lets the paper and pixels climb onto the stand. First feed. The school's fixed lens. 7:52, Joe 4. The red paddle rises. 7:52, Joe 7. The boy, inhaler in his fist, leans forward. 7:52, Joe 9. The sedan's nose creeps over the line, halting with its front tire heavy on the paint. No horn, no screech, just the quiet theft of a lane meant for feet. Click. The body-worn camera at 8:01 picks up the rhythm of an officer's walk. Hazard lights pulse against brick, like an irritated heartbeat. The car blocks the nurse's access bay. On the dash, a glossy donor decal catches the morning. Click. A transcription strip slides into view. CarPlay voice note, 7:52. Running late, rolling by the school, then fire lane drop. The word rolling lands and stays. The clerk lays down a thin binder labeled Safety Log. Entry, 8:03, she reads, voice neutral. Nurse detours around parked sedan. Delay 2 minutes, 40 seconds for student inhaler. That number is small on paper and huge in the benches. People here know what 2 minutes can do inside a chest. Caprio gestures. A PDF fills the screen. The father's letter. Properties expand like a file drawer. Created, 7:11 a.m. Author, A. Mercer. Signature, embedded image. He doesn't sharpen his tone. He flattens it. This is not a recommendation, he says. It is an imitation. No ripple of outrage, just the quiet compression of air when a thing clicks into place. Next, the clerk says, bank statement, fund account. 8:37 a.m. Transfer to the school. $3,000. Memo line, crosswalk safety. Caprio slides the page half an inch. Money is useful, he says. After the fact, money is advertising. We are not billing guilt. Another angle arrives. A cafe's exterior camera at 8:06. The sedan sits in the second lane, hazards dark. A barista drags a squeegee across glass. 1 minute became 5. The lane still stolen. Paper makes a dry run across wood as each exhibit returns to the pile. The projector's fan whispers. A cough is smothered in a sleeve. Mrs. Reyes doesn't look triumphant. She looks relieved that the record now speaks a language children understand. Wait, walk, breathe. Caprio turns the laptop toward himself and lowers the lid until the glow thins to a seam. We've traced impatience from sign to stripe to doorway, he says. We've measured its cost in seconds and steps. Alex's phone remains face down. His posture has shed its performance. The room sees a young man realizing that a morning he would have forgotten is now written in 4 fonts. The judge gathers the stack. Camera stills at the front, logs centered, the forged letter face down as a bottom card. He taps the edges until they align. The facts have stopped moving, he says. A soft chorus of coat fabric answers, the sound of people preparing to hear the part that actually changes things. Caprio looks to the clerk. Mark all exhibits admitted, he says. To the room, punishment is not a price tag. It is a course correction. He closes the folder. The click is modest and final, like a latch finding its home. The projector dies. The wall returns to its old paint. Mr. Mercer, the judge says, voice level as a crosswalk bar. I'm ready to decide. The air tightens, then holds. Somewhere, a paper cup touches the floor with a hollow tap and goes still. The officer straightens. Mrs. Reyes lets her hands fall to her sides. Caprio glances once at Leon standing by the wall, then back to Alex. Fines, he begins, are the lightest tool I have. I will use them. But the rest will be heavier and closer to where this began. He lifts the gavel, not to pound, but to signal the shift from proof to consequence. One calm breath, shared by a room that has reached the end of the film and the beginning of the lesson. Here is the order. Caprio lets the room breathe for a heartbeat, then reads from the bench as if setting posts in concrete. First, fines for the rolling stop in a school zone, the unlawful use of a fire lane, and contemptuous conduct, plus court costs. The clerk's pen moves. No drama, just math. Second, restitution. You will reimburse the school for the documented delay to medical access that morning and fund replacement of volunteer gear, vests, flashlights, the handheld stop sign. Foundation donations do not offset this. Third, community duty. 60 hours at morning crossings, 7:15 to 8:30. Your first 10 hours will be alongside Mrs. Reyes. In addition, 2 shifts with the school nurse, carrying inhalers and first aid kits under supervision. Fourth, training, defensive driving, and school zone ADA awareness. Certificates filed within 30 days. Fifth, ethics. You will give one conversation at the City College titled, "A Name is Not a Pause." No press, no posts. Before you speak, you will state on the record that the father's letter was fabricated and destroy it in front of the class. Sixth, a condition. For 6 months, any violation in school, medical, or senior zones triggers the maximum penalty without reduction. Any attempt to use family status for leverage refers you to the ethics board and bars you from representing the fund in schools. He sets the paper down. The room waits. Alex finds his voice in the dry air. "I'll pay for new traffic lights," he offers, grasping for largeness. Caprio's reply is mild and immovable. "Hardware won't stand in the crosswalk for you. Character will. Be your own signal. Every morning at 7:15. From the wall, Leon steps forward a half pace. "Your Honor," he says, "permit me to take the first shift with my son. I once failed to stop, at rules. It is time I stop for people." Something travels through the benches. Quiet, heavy, human. Mrs. Reyes unclips a reflective vest from her bag and sets a whistle on the table. The whistle makes a bright, solitary tap against wood. "Here," she says. "Tomorrow, 7:15. The whistle is for kids, not for publicity." Alex looks at her, not past her. "Mrs. Reyes, I looked at my calendar, not at your student's inhaler. I'm sorry. I'll be there." Caprio lifts the forged letter with 2 fingers. "One more thing," he says, and slides it to the clerk. "File as exhibit, then mark it void." He leans back, voice level. The law isn't a facade or a last name, it's the pause in front of a person. Learn the pause, and justice will learn you. A soft rustle as the vest is folded. That clear tap of the whistle still seems to hang in the air. The gavel descends once, gentle, bracketed by a half-second of silence on each side. The room exhales together. Leon turns to his son and says it low, a promise rather than a threat. 7:10. Together. Chairs scrape. Papers go back into envelopes. The door closes without a bang. The next morning, breath smokes in the chill. 2 figures in reflective vests take positions by the stripes. One older, one younger. Cars nose forward, then wait. A boy with an inhaler crosses at an ordinary pace. The whistle stays quiet. The city moves, slightly altered, because 2 men decided to stand still first.